Welcome to the deep dive. We're really glad you could join us today. If you're the kind of person who gets captivated by the quiet, overlooked corners of the natural world, today's exploration is going to be incredibly rewarding.
Oh, absolutely. It's a genuinely compelling subject today.
Yeah, we're turning our focus to a tiny, deeply mysterious amphibian, the multicolored tree frog.
Which is fascinating because it sits right at this intersection of modern scientific cataloging and the really urgent, complex realities of global conservation.
Right.
It perfectly illustrates the limits of our current ecological knowledge.
And our approach to this topic is going to be, well, highly focused. The source material for this entire analysis is remarkably concentrated.
Very concentrated.
We're looking primarily at a single Wikipedia page dedicated to this specific frog, alongside the foundational databases it cites, so the American Museum of Natural History and UC Berkeley's Amphibia Web.
Which makes this an exercise in scientific extraction, really.
Yeah, exactly.
We're taking what's categorized as a stub, a skeletal foundational entry, and examining the vast implications hidden within just a few lines of data.
So our mission today is to take this incredibly sparse text and pull every possible nugget of insight from it. We want to give you a comprehensive shortcut to understanding this obscure animal, its environment, and really the reality of its survival status.
To give you the full picture.
Right. We are going to wring every drop of context out of this material. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the frog's identity and its place in the scientific record.
Well, looking at the primary data, the scientific name is your anchor point. It's officially classified as Nyctimestes multicolor.
Nyctimestes multicolor.
Right. And what immediately jumps out from the taxonomic history is the timeline. This species was formally described in the year 2004 by a researcher named Gunther.
Which is wild. A 2004 discovery is astonishingly recent in the grand timeline of zoology.
It really is.
I mean, we often think of major species cataloging happening back in the 19th or early 20th centuries.
Right, the Victorian-era naturalists.
Exactly. So finding a new vertebrate in 2004 really highlights how much of the dense, remote regions of the world remain unmapped by modern biology.
Completely unmapped.
And even more intriguing is that since its discovery, its formal identity has already undergone a significant revision. The text notes it was previously known under a synonym, Latoria multicolor.
And what's fascinating here is how that shift from Latoria to Nyctimestes is a perfect window into the fluid, rigorous nature of taxonomy.
It's not just a filing system.
No, taxonomy is essentially an ongoing debate. The genus Latoria has historically been this massive, somewhat unwieldy catch-all category for Australasian tree frogs.
Like a holding pen for species we haven't quite figured out yet.
Exactly. And as researchers gather more precise morphological data, perhaps looking closer at palpebral venation, which is the specific vein patterns in the eyelids that often distinguish Nyctimestes. Right, or as they process advanced genetic sequencing, they continuously refine these evolutionary trees.
Let's actually break down that evolutionary address to give you a sense of its biological heritage. According to the source, it belongs to the kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Amphibia, order Anura.
The tailless amphibians.
Yep, frogs and toads. Then family Hylidae, and specifically the subfamily Pelodroideinae.
And every step down that taxonomic ladder narrows the ecological focus. Moving from Amphibia down to Anura gives us the frogs. Moving into Hylidae places it among the true tree frogs, the ones with arboreal adaptations like specialized toe pads.
And then Pelodroideinae.
Right. Arriving at the subfamily Pelodroidea isolates it geographically and evolutionarily to the specific lineage of tree frogs dominating the Australasian region.
Got it.
So the reclassification into Nyctimestes means our fundamental understanding of its closest relatives has been actively sharpened since 2004.
And that constant sharpening makes one particular omission in the source text almost poetic. The common name is multicolored tree frog. The scientific name literally incorporates the word multicolor. Yet reading through this foundational text, there is no physical description provided.
None at all.
There's no mention of its patterns, its hues, or whether those multiple colors serve as camouflage or warning signals. Nothing.
Which is a stark reminder of how raw scientific data is structured. These databases prioritize spatial data, taxonomy, and conservation metrics way over narrative descriptions.
They just give you the facts.
Right. You are handed this evocative name, Nyctimestes multicolor, and while your mind naturally visualizes something vibrant, The text strictly bounds your understanding to its classification and its geographic coordinates,
It leaves the visual entirely to the imagination.
while grounding the reality in hard ecological data points.
It certainly emphasizes the mystery surrounding these newly described West Papua amphibians. Shifting from its taxonomy to its physical world, the geographic data provided is incredibly precise.
Extremely precise.
This frog is strictly endemic to West Papua, Indonesia.
And the ecological weight of the word endemic cannot be overstated here. It indicates that the entire global population of this species is restricted exclusively to West Papua.
There are no backup populations.
Exactly. None in South America, none in Africa. When a species is endemic to a single localized region, its survival is inextricably linked to the microfluctuations of that specific environment.
So any localized pressure becomes a global existential threat to the species.
Precisely.
Drilling down into that localized environment, the source provides a specific altitudinal marker. Here's where it gets really interesting. The data notes that this frog has been observed at an altitude of roughly 950 meters above sea level.
Which places this species in a very specific atmospheric and ecological band.
Just to put that into perspective for you, 950 meters is nearly a full kilometer vertically into the atmosphere. You're moving well beyond the coastal lowlands into an entirely different climatic zone.
You're dealing with cooler ambient temperatures
Distinct moisture gradients.
and a totally unique assemblage of flora and fauna compared to the sea level tropics.
And the habitat data further complicates this picture. The source explicitly lists 4 distinct natural environments where Nyctimistes multicolor is found.
Right.
It lists subtropical or tropical moist lowland forests, subtropical or tropical moist montane forests, swamps, and freshwater marshes.
That is a remarkable spectrum of real estate for a single amphibian.
It really is. You have the dense canopy of lowland forests, the cooler, cloud-touched montane forests alongside the stagnant, waterlogged environments of swamps and marshes.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the combination of those 4 distinct habitats with that 950-meter elevation marker suggests we are looking at a species adapted to an altitudinal transition zone.
An ecotone.
Right. Amphibians are ectothermic, meaning they rely entirely on their environment to regulate their body temperature. Navigating the thermal and moisture differences between a sun-drenched lowland marsh and the shaded, cooler understory of a montane forest at a kilometer of elevation that requires a highly specialized ecological niche.
It implies the frog is really utilizing the specific microclimates of West Papua to survive.
Demanding the deep moisture of the swamps while potentially exploiting the varied insect life or canopy structures of the elevated forests.
It forces you to wonder about the mechanics of its daily survival. Does the population migrate altitudinally depending on the season, or are there distinct, isolated micropopulations, some residing strictly in the bogs while others navigate the montane canopy?
The database doesn't provide the behavioral mechanics, but the habitat list alone proves the multicolored tree frog is navigating a complex, demanding slice of the Indonesian wilderness.
Which naturally transitions our focus to the security of that wilderness. We've established an ecologically specialized endemic amphibian, but its long-term viability is where the data reveals a deeply troubling scenario.
A very common scenario in Indonesian wildlife conservation today, unfortunately.
Looking at the conservation data, the source relies on a 2020 assessment conducted by the IUCN SSC Amphibian Specialist Group.
The IUCN being the global authority on biodiversity health, maintaining the red list of threatened species.
Right. But reading their assessment of this specific frog reveals an incredible paradox. Wait, let me look at the exact phrasing here. The species is officially classified under category IUCN 3.1 as data deficient.
IUCN red list data deficient.
Yes. But in the very same paragraph, the text definitively states it is threatened by habitat loss.
Yes.
How can a scientific body claim they lack the data to classify a species while simultaneously declaring it is actively losing its habitat?
This raises an important question regarding the mechanics of modern conservation biology. The paradox you're pointing out perfectly encapsulates the current crisis in global ecological monitoring.
Because the labels seem contradictory.
They do, but the label data deficient is highly specific in the context of the IUCN. It means that field biologists lack the rigorous, peer-reviewed population metrics required to slot the species into a definitive threat category like vulnerable, endangered, or critically endangered.
They don't have the head count.
Right. They don't have the specific head count, the generational breeding rates, or the precise distribution mapping of the frog itself.
So the microdata on the animal is fundamentally missing. They can't measure the frog's population curve because they simply haven't been able to survey enough of them since that initial 2004 discovery.
Precisely. Surveying amphibians at 950 meters in the rugged, dense terrain of West Papua is logistically monumental.
I can only imagine.
However, the macro data is abundant. While scientists can't easily track a tiny, elusive tree frog in the montane canopy, satellite imagery, remote sensing, and broad regional ecological audits can very clearly track the macro environment.
The forest itself.
Yes. Those tools definitively show that the swamps, marshes, and moist forests of West Papua are receding. They are driven back by agricultural expansion, logging operations, or broader climatic shifts.
That shifts the perspective entirely. The scientists are essentially saying they can't find the frogs to count them, but they can watch from space as the frog's exact ecosystem is dismantled.
It frames the data deficient classification not as a neutral placeholder, but as a severe distress signal. In a rapidly altering environment like the West Papuan forests, a lack of data is an indicator of profound vulnerability.
Because they are running out of time to get the data.
Exactly. When an endemic species is entirely reliant on the delicate moisture balance of high-altitude swamps and montane forests, any macro-level habitat degradation is an immediate existential threat to that species.
Regardless of whether a biologist is on the ground to tally the declining numbers.
We are witnessing the environment collapse before we've even finished taking the baseline inventory of the species living within it.
That reality makes the preservation of this specific source material all the more compelling. Let's analyze the nature of the text we're actually reading today because it reflects how global information systems handle sparse critical data.
The meta-context of the knowledge itself.
Right. This information comes to us via a Wikipedia stub, specifically categorized under Pelodryadeinae stubs and amphibians of Western New Guinea. It was last updated in October of 2025.
It's a brief, unadorned repository of facts.
And yet, despite the English text being just a handful of sentences, this exact database entry has been translated and maintained in 15 different languages.
15.
You can view the same taxonomic and habitat data in Asturiano, Català, Persian, Svenska, Turkcell, Tingvit, and several others. People across the globe have ensured that this highly localized, newly described Indonesian amphibian has a permanent digital footprint in their native languages.
Which highlights the vital architecture of shared human knowledge.
Yeah.
The localized language pages are not functioning in isolation. They are supported by massive institutional frameworks. As you mentioned, the source cites the American Museum of Natural History's Amphibian Species of the World database and UC Berkeley's AmphibiaWeb.
Consider how those databases function behind the scenes to power a simple encyclopedia stub. AmphibiaWeb, for example, isn't just a list of names. It is a continuously updated synthesis of spatial mapping, genetic sequencing, and conservation tracking.
And the integration of those databases means that a student reading the stub in TuckVid can access the exact same rigorous taxonomic revisions, like the shift from Latoria to Nyctimistes, as a researcher sitting in New York.
It democratizes the data.
Absolutely. The AMNH and UC Berkeley act as the raw, empirical engines that feed these localized, accessible platforms. It demonstrates that in the modern era of conservation, maintaining the digital existence of a species is a critical first step toward maintaining its biological existence.
That is incredibly well said. Even a minimal data set, a name, an altitude, a list of habitats, and a warning about deforestation becomes a powerful anchor point for global awareness.
It proves that no piece of scientific data is too small to be synthesized and shared.
Right. From a text that takes under a minute to read, we have extracted a complex narrative about evolutionary taxonomy, the specific ecological pressures of West Papuan montane forests, and the deeply concerning paradox of navigating habitat loss without complete population data.
We've taken the skeletal framework of the multicolored tree frog and fleshed out its reality.
Which underscores the core philosophy of our analysis. Data only becomes meaningful when it is contextualized.
By rigorously examining the implications behind an altitude marker or a data-deficient label, we uncovered the genuine, urgent narrative of Nyctimistes multicolor.
Let's summarize the key insights we've uncovered for you today. We've explored the elusive multicolored tree frog, a species whose vibrant name belies the total lack of physical description in its foundational texts.
A true mystery.
We understand it occupies a highly specialized, endemic niche in West Papua, Indonesia. surviving across the varied microclimates of swamps and moist forests at a significant 950-meter elevation.
bridging the gap between the lowlands and the mountains.
We traced its recent 2004 discovery and its subsequent taxonomic reclassification from Latoria to Nyctimistes within the Peladryoidenae subfamily, reflecting the ever-evolving nature of evolutionary science.
Science is never settled.
And most critically, we unpacked the disturbing reality of his IUCN assessment. Existing as a data-deficient species while remote monitoring definitively proves its only habitat is disappearing. So, what does this all mean?
I believe it leaves you with a deeply consequential concept to consider.
Go ahead.
If a complex, specialized species discovered as recently as 2004 is already facing the erasure of its habitat before the scientific community can even gather enough boots-on-the-ground data to properly assess its population, how many other data-deficient wonders are currently residing in the remote montane forests and lowlands of our world?
That's a haunting thought.
How many entirely undocumented branches of the evolutionary tree are waiting in those shrinking ecosystems, racing against time to be discovered and understood before their habitats vanish entirely?
That is a profound perspective to carry forward. It reframes how we view the untouched regions of the map and the vital importance of both localized conservation and global scientific databases. Thank you for joining us on this exploration today. We hope this deep dive into a sparse but powerful piece of scientific literature has equipped you with a deeper understanding of taxonomy, altitudinal ecology, and the nuanced battles of Indonesian wildlife conservation. Keep analyzing the data, keep questioning the paradoxes, and continue to stay immensely curious about the complex, hidden workings of our natural world. We will catch you on the next deep dive.